2022 is a pivotal year for Ryan Silverfield and the Memphis Tigers. It's a year in which there's some questions about where this program is heading, but there's a lot to be excited about when you look at the offseason that they had, the recruiting that they've done, the talent that they bring in via the transfer portal. There's a lot to like about this team. Even when you look at the roster they already have, they have a young quarterback who's ready to break out, a safety who's a potential All-American, and a plenty of young, talented players that can still take a step forward in their development and in production. Memphis is a team that is kind of sitting in the middle of the AAC right now, and if these guys are able to take a step forward, it could push them towards the top of the conference. Quintez Johnson is that safety. He's a do-it-all safety for Memphis. He's been doing that for a couple of years now, and he's a potential All-American player. 104 tackles to lead the team last year. He also had 11 passes defended, 4.5 tackles for loss, a sack, an interception. Like I said, he does everything for this defense. He is the leader of this defense, and really the talent around him is enough to, kind of complement him, but it's really his show. He's going to be the one running everything. He's going to be the one that everybody looks to when they need someone to make a play, and he's the one that can do that. He has the highest ceiling of anybody on this defense, and with the talent that they brought in, they brought a lot of compliments into him, play with him, like I said, and it's going to be exciting to see if this defense can put it all together. Now, Mike McIntyre is off to FIU, so they're going to be in a different scheme, but it's going to be fun to see what Johnson does. It hasn't really phased him over the last few years, and I think that he's just going to be as good as he was those years. And I think he may have a little bit of help, which means that his numbers will go down, but that doesn't mean that the quality of play will go down as well. One of the transfers that they added was linebacker Jeff Canti-Arku from Syracuse, a linebacker who comes in and they really need some help at the linebacker position. They lost quite a bit of experience and they need someone to step up to be that leader of the second level. And he's a guy who can do that. He wasn't super productive last year at Syracuse, but I think he is a talented player who can step up for Memphis and be productive. I think that the numbers were a little bit misleading from his season last year, but I think that he can be, like I said, a player that steps up and helps this defense, because the defense, let's face it, is going to be the one that everybody looks to take a step forward. And with the talent that they have returning and they added via the transfer portal, there's no reason why they can't do that. I really like the trajectory of Seth Hennigan's career. You look at, he surprised everybody by winning the starting quarterback position last year. And I think that after his performance in 2021, there's a lot to like about his potential in 2022 and beyond. You look at, he completed under 60% of his passes, which isn't great, but he was a freshman, so he's got some time to figure that out. But he threw for over 3,300 yards with 25 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions. The touchdown to interception ratio is what I'm really excited about, because it feels like a lot of quarterbacks, when they come in and start as a freshman, they need some time to figure things out. They're kind of sitting at that maybe 16 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. You don't really see a 25-8. Now, it's not elite by any means, but that's really good for a freshman. You look at what he did with the talent that he had around him, and obviously this year it's going to be interesting to see what they do without Sean Dykes and Calvin Austin. They have some wide receivers that are going to be exciting. We'll talk about one of them here in a little bit. But I think that it's Seth Hennigan that's going to have to bring everybody together. If he is as good as we think he's going to be able to make guys better around him, whether that's, Javon Ivory, whether that's whoever is going to step up. There's plenty of talent on this roster, like I said, and it just comes down to whether or not they can find chemistry with each other. While everyone's focused on Quintez Johnson, Rodney Owens is another great safety for Memphis, another do-it-all safety for them. 78 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 5 passes defended, 2 interceptions. Johnson and Owens are one of the best duos in the entire country. You look at what they're able to do statistically and what they're able to do when they need plays on defense. Memphis has 2 guys that can step up. So the back end really isn't a question. I think there's maybe one spot in that area that maybe is a question, but as a unit, there aren't very many questions about this group. They're capable of making plays in the pass game, in the run game, and a guy like Owens, who probably gets overlooked because of Johnson, is going to be just as valuable to this defense as Johnson is. Brandon Thomas is another freshman that surprised us last year. He and Hennigan weren't expected to start, but they stepped right up and they made their names known right away. 669 yards and 8 touchdowns last year. It's a crowded backfield for Memphis, but I think that this is going to be the Brandon Thomas show. Now, there's obviously quite a few players that are going to participate and be part of that rotation. But when you look at what Brandon Thomas did last year, there's a reason why he was the go-to guy. And if he stays healthy, I think that he has an exciting trajectory, an exciting future for this Memphis team. And he and Hennigan will be a fun backfield combination for years to come. The defensive line took a couple hits last year, but guys like Wardalis Ducksworth stepped up. And you look at his production at defensive end, 34 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. A productive player on the edge, maybe not the most explosive, but I think it was more he was just getting his footing and he was able to figure out what he was, what his role was on this defense, and that the front seven is going to have some questions. Like I said, the secondary is kind of figured out, but it's going to be what does the front seven bring to the table? There's a lot of guys that you can put on this list, but I think Ducksworth is a big time player who can really make a big impact on this Memphis defense in 2022. Greg Rubin at one point was on pace for like 30 passes defended. The man was being tested left and right, and he proved that he could handle it. Obviously, things slowed down when teams realized, hey, we can't just throw it at him every single play. And that's why we saw a major cool off in the amount of passes defended he had last year. Still finished with 14, but I think that teams realized real quickly that he's for real and he has a lot of potential. You look at when we had TJ Carter on this defense, Rubin has the potential to be as good as TJ Carter, and it's going to be really fun to see. Like I said, the safeties are good. We already mentioned them. Rubin's just another guy that can be a playmaker for that secondary. Maybe the most underrated addition in the transfer portal was Charlotte transfer Tyler Murray. The linebacker had 78 tackles and 5.5 tackles for loss, and it's going to be really exciting to see what he does in 2022 for Memphis. It's kind of a step up in competition, but I like his ability to make plays, his athleticism in space, and it's going to be fun to see how he fits in this defense. Like I said, it's a new scheme, so everybody's kind of positions are up for grabs outside of a couple players. And a guy like Tyler Murray can have a big impact on the front seven, a group that really needs to step up this year, like we've said. Javon Ivory enters a big year for the Memphis Tigers. Because Calvin Austin is gone, somebody needs to step up to be that go-to wide receiver. And Javon Ivory is an extremely athletic player who is more than capable of being that guy. He had 413 yards last year with 3 touchdowns, and now with the attention going elsewhere because Calvin Austin and even Sean Dykes are gone, a guy like Javon Ivory can step up. Now, there are other guys that could fit this role as well, but I really like what I've seen over the last couple of years from Javon Ivory, and I think that he could be that guy that Memphis needs to step up. We mentioned some of those spots in the secondary and on this defense that need to be addressed, and one of them is the other cornerback spot across from Greg Rubin. And Julian Barnett is the guy that can be there. He can be what Memphis needs, but it just comes down to consistency and his ability to stay on the field. He only played 5 games last year, and the cornerback position is kind of up for grabs opposite of Rubin, like I said. Teams are going to test that side because they know what Rubin can do, and that gives someone like Barnett a chance to show what they can do for this defense. Memphis has a lot of exciting players on this roster. I mean, it was tough to put top 10 together because I like so many of the players that are coming back and the players that they've added in the transfer portal. So it's going to be fun to see what they're capable of doing. Like I said, a pivotal year for Ryan Silverfield and the Memphis Tigers in the AAC, especially now that we know that Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF are leaving. Memphis has a chance to showcase what they can do and potentially move along with those 3 other teams. Maybe not to the Big 12, but just show that they're worthy of joining a potential Power 5 conference.